I like the gear. So if you're going to wear that, then I'm going to put this on.
What is it? I love it. Oh, it's John Anderson. Yeah.
This is my retro 1950 Packers. It was sitting in the mail when I got back from Arkansas with a note that said, "Thanks for your support," from the general manager of the Green Bay Packers.
You got that sent to you from Brian Gutekunst. Is that what you're telling me? What? What? Well, you have to talk about that. What?
Shut up and sit down.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, and Mill Home Supper Club.
What's up, Wisconsin? From the Inside Wisconsin studios, my name is Trevor Thomas, back in the saddle again. My guy, John Anderson. Welcome back, buddy.
Thanks, man. It's good to see that we've survived an extra month when I wasn't around. Like, not that I thought the whole show could not survive without me, but it's just nice that it's still here. You've got the ore, everything looks good. You've got some new gear. I love that. And I'm glad that I have not been removed from my position, all those things. So I'm happy to be back.
I got to be honest, Olivia Harlan-Decker gave you a run for your money, though. Thanks for the assist on that.
I totally knew. Listen, I'm not any dummy. I knew what I was getting into, that I was jeopardizing my position.
It was close, but
yeah,
we're glad to have you back.
And she's probably better connected within the Packer family and, the NBA and everything else.
I did tell her that if she was able to line up Grandpa Harlan for us, that she might take my spot. And if we could ever have him here on Inside Wisconsin to talk about some of those stories, I promise to kick John Anderson to the curb.
Sure.
That would be a great. Hey, lots has happened since you went on a voyage.
Yeah.
Look at this list. The Bucs won the NBA championship.
That was a good thing.
Aaron Rodgers is back.
Really good thing.
The Brewers are taking over the world.
Maybe the best of things.
I think so. You spent a month in Tokyo, which I hear is beautiful this time of year.
Yeah, wouldn't know, but okay.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to hear that story. Geez, myself and my entire family got COVID-19. I'll tell you that story.
Sorry.
A mitt full of Wisconsin Statriots won medals at the Olympics. I can't wait to hear that. And your house got hit by a hurricane. But, John, none of that matters because we're talking to the Packers general manager today, Brian Gutekunst on Inside Wisconsin. So we'll worry about that later.
Yeah, let's talk about the Packers. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers, and I can thank him for this really nice shirt. What do you think of that? My 1950s retro Packers jersey for the game against the Washington football team.
You told me the story. I freaked out a little bit. You'll have to thank Brian for the nice note. Here we go.
There you go.
The general manager of the Green Bay Packers, Brian Gutekunst, on Inside Wisconsin.
Shut up and sit down.
Brian Gutekunst, the Packers general manager here on Inside Wisconsin. Brian, you are a busy guy. Thanks for taking some time to chat with us.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, John, tell the story about the jersey. Get it out of the way because I am so jealous of that 34 on your chest. It's not even funny.
Is it the number or is it the jersey?
It's who sent you the jersey. Like Brian Gutekunst sent you a jersey to your house. I'm jealous.
Well, I'm going to ask Brian because I know how these things work. A lot of times, I'm sure things get passed in front of you. Here, sign this, please. I don't know if it's your handwriting. It could be your executive assistant, whatever it is. But I appreciate this. It's a good look. I like the all green. I'm better with the all white, but I can live with this. It's fun. My thanks. And also, please just don't tell me you made the mistake. Like this was supposed to go to the other John Anderson. I have to give it back.
No. My executive, Kelly, did put it in front of me. And
okay.
No, I was glad to do it. I actually think, this is a new jersey we're wearing this year, and it is pretty sharp. So.
Yeah,
because I get the other stuff all the time. I have to send back John Anderson's NFL pension stuff. I'm like, this is the wrong dude, man. It's not me. I'll be honest. I kept the all '80s team linebacker plaque that still hangs up here. That one he's not even gonna know he missed it. But a lot of times I'm asked to return shit, which is too bad.
I don't get a lot of that with my last name, but
yeah. How often does that get butchered?
Oh, pretty much regularly. And I don't understand it because it's just how it's spelled. You know what I mean? So it's pretty regularly, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And do the envelopes come that way too? The envelopes come misspelled. And
Oh yeah. It's always that extra N. You know, it's GUTE, and they always put that extra N in there, but there's no N. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that problem now, right? After this summer, pretty much everybody knows your name.
Unfortunately, yes.
And how it is. So, how are things in the building right now? Like if you're just to assess how things are now that it appears at least things have settled and we're into some sort of normal routine. How are things?
It's great. No, I mean, obviously, I think, when you're in the off season and your focus is away from the actual football, sometimes I think things can get a little sideways like they did. But at the same time, once everybody gets back in the building and we're working towards the same thing and the same cause, I think, everything gets back in alignment. So, no, really excited. I'm really excited about our team. We're coming up here to the last preseason game and, trying to stay as healthy as we can before New Orleans. But I think everybody's really excited to get to it.
So, Brian, Inside Wisconsin is all about the people, the stories, and the patriotism of America's Dairyland. I joke with my wife, Amanda, because John, Brian, and I our sons are in the same class in school. And I joke with her a lot. Back in 2018, when you were announced as general manager, I looked at Amanda and I'm like, well, there went Daddy Career Day. Because somebody just won all of them for the rest of our time together. So I want to know, though, in that moment, I remember vividly you and Mark Murphy had this exchange during your press conference where you said it was always Green Bay. I always wanted to be in Green Bay. And Mark looked at you as if your agent led him to believe that was not the case. And that's what a good agent's supposed to do. But what was it about Green Bay, about raising a family here? You've been here forever. Just tell us about what it is for you in Wisconsin.
Sure. Well, first of all, I've been blessed to be part of this organization. It's really since the summer of 1997. I interned here right after they had won the Super Bowl at that 97 training camp before I spent about a year in Kansas City before I came back. So I've been here a long time. And just my family has just been blessed by this organization for so long, and it's just such an important part of my life. But my wife's from Menasha, Wisconsin. She's born and raised here. Her whole family's from here. I went to high school in Minneapolis and then went to college at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. So Wisconsin's been kind of near and dear to my heart for a long, long time. And as we were going through that process, you really never know what's going to happen. But the opportunity to stay here was certainly something that was extremely important to me and my wife and my family.
So then you went to school in the Twin Cities, and your wife is from the Twin Cities. Because I tell people all the time, Nita Menasha, if you don't know, those are actually the Twin Cities.
No doubt. I've learned that along the way. I don't think I knew that originally, but I've learned that along the way. Don't mess with the Blue Jays. That's a strong allegiance right there. So
give me what is unique then about the Packer franchise and the setup that you have. Sure. Because it is unlike everything else. There are times I'm sure it works for you. I'm sure there are times that it works against you. But just lay it out for people that is why your job is unique as a GM as to other people who have the same title in the NFL but work in a different franchise.
Oh, obviously, certainly the biggest thing is we don't have a traditional owner. We have a board of directors that elects an executive board, which elects a president who's Mark Murphy, who kind of acts as our owner. So it's different than really any other franchise that in the National Football League. I also think the investment of the fans into this team is just different. Obviously, they're shareholders, and everybody knows a lot about that. But I think this is as close to a college SEC Big Ten feel as there is in the National Football League, and I just think it's special. I think everything that we do here goes back into winning into the football team. And I don't know if every franchise can say that. Every decision we make, all the resources we have go into supporting this team and these players to go out there and accomplish, the goal of winning a Super Bowl. So not every team is aligned that way. And certainly not every team has the resources provided to do that. So I think it's just a special place. Personally, I love it because it's in the National Football League to be able to drive, from your house to work in 10 minutes and get home after game day in 20 minutes is unusual. And to be able to raise a family in a small town city with the field that this place has is just there's no other opportunity in the National Football League to do so.
Have you guys been approached by the SEC yet to join along with Oklahoma and Texas?
No, but we're listening to all offers.
Brian, you mentioned it earlier, UW Lacrosse. That's where you got bit by the non-playing side of football, no different than what your dad was up to those days, obviously. But what was it at Lacrosse? You had a shoulder injury. You were playing there, D3, and then I think you won a ring with them as an assistant coach, did you not?
I did. So you look back in your kind of life career, how everything unfolded, and you just feel so blessed. But I got to be around a guy named Roger Herring, and he had a defensive coordinator named Roland Christensen. And they had tremendous success at the University of Wisconsin lacrosse. I think they were there together about 30-some years, maybe had one losing season, 3 national championships, one that I got to be a part of. Roger actually just passed away about a week ago. And but the impact he had on so many that went through that program, including myself, just can't be measured. For me, after I got done playing and couldn't play anymore, I kind of was looking to get back to North Carolina, which is home for me. And Roger just said no. He said, you're gonna stay here and you owe me, and you're gonna be an assistant coach and help me. And that was probably one of the more important decisions in my life as far as my path, because getting to be around those guys. Obviously, my dad was a football coach and knows more about the game than anyone that I've ever been around. But being around Roger and Roland and that program, I think allowed me to look at an afterlife of playing. That again, I didn't know scouting was going to be in my future, but coaching or scouting, but being around the game and having a career that way. So I owe so much to that place and those men there.
You mentioned Coach Herring passing away.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was nice. Like, I thought he got his due, which for a Division III coach, even with that kind of success, sometimes that can escape people. But I thought he was really recognized for his career. Give me something, though. Give me a lesson or two, because I bore Trevor with lessons I got from my college track coach all the time. Mm-hmm. But that just kind of shows up in your daily routine, or that shows up that is an influence on you that in some way influences the Green Bay Packers every day.
Yeah, I know for me it was that Coach Herring, he found value in everyone. Whether it was, people helping out in the equipment room or the training room or all the players in the team, no matter what their role was, he found value in everyone, I think. And he made you feel that way, which is unique. Especially with as many players that he had. I mean, we would start out every year with about 200. And I think after the first meeting, we were about down to 175. But he believed in people, and he believed in kind of putting them in places and letting them grow. He also, I think, he had a Marine background, and he believed in toughness and hard work and physicality. And he always thought the harder you made training camp and practices, that the cream would kind of rise to the top. And that was kind of his philosophy. And but just a great man. And I think the impact that I early on when I was there that I saw was how many high school coaches and people in the community, not just in the lacrosse area, but throughout the state, had so many ties to him. And like whenever we were recruiting, he didn't like to go to the schools. He'd just pick up the phone and call the coach, because somewhere along the way he either coached them or had some kind of experience with them. And so that was, growing up in a Division I coaching household where your dad was gone on the road recruiting all the time, that was kind of different. He would always tell me when I would want to go out and visit some of these players, he's like, why would you go visit them? They're coming here, So very unique man. So
it's awesome to hear you talk about a mentor in lacrosse. And I know there's another one that you unfortunately lost over the last year or so, and it's Ted Thompson. He thought the world of you, Brian, and clearly believed in what you were able to do for the Packers. What was Ted Thompson's favorite thing about working for the Green Bay Packers and living here in Wisconsin? I know he was here in De Pere where I live. Because let's be honest, he didn't tell us any of those things.
No, Ted loved this place. He loved he loved, I think, this organization and the players more than he ever let on. He just was not that. He was not someone who wore things on his sleeve or was very. He didn't communicate those things all the time. But he loved the Green Bay Packers. He loved this building. He loved the people in it. I think it would take people about 3 years before they felt they could even approach him sometimes, just because of the way he was. But once you kind of were one of his guys, that was going to last a long time. And I learned so many things from him, from a scouting perspective and just from all different walks of life. But the thing that I never left him around all of us was the fact that it was about the players. You know, it was about those guys on the field. And I don't think we've ever lost sight of that. It's that's the most important thing here. It's always been that way. And him being a former player himself, playing 10 years in the league, I think that was something that he always would preach to us once you kind of got into his inner circle.
So I'm sitting here in Connecticut kind of chuckling at that because my dad, who is, by the way, who would have been 90 years old on this day, was one of these guys that started from being a hood rat that snuck under the field at City Stadium to eventually having success and sitting up in one of the club seats. But he was one of the original Packer guys, like you found 100 times. I can't believe we're letting Brett Favre walk and bringing Aaron Rodgers, right? And so now at his funeral, he's passed away. I'm at Lindahl's, right? So I'm just on the corner there. And I said, now somebody can go over and tell Ted Thompson he's off the hook. Right? And I can still hear him saying to me, I don't know why they just didn't tell us right away that Aaron would be this good. Then we wouldn't have had the weeping and gnashing of teeth, to which I said, no, they tried really hard to tell you he was going to be this good, right? That's part of the reason that was happening. We're kind of reliving this in some thing, and that we're trying to protect the football team long-term at a position that's really hard. But what have we learned going through this? Because you saw it the first time, and now as you are in sort of a bigger chair as this goes through, you know, what are the lessons that come out of this that benefit you and eventually benefit the franchise?
Yeah, I think I wasn't super close to it when Ted went through the Brett Favre thing. I was on the staff and had a few conversations with him about it as he went through, but I wasn't, and I was here during training camp during that year, but wasn't as close to it as certainly the conversations that were being had then as I am now. I will say the one thing that I remember Ted did tell me when he was going through it was he was just trying to figure out and do what was right for the Green Bay Packers and the player, and by the player meaning Brett. He really cared about that, and I think at times those two things were at odds a little bit, and I think it took a toll on him. But he really did care about doing what was right for the organization first, and then the player as well. So, and I think as I went through this year with Mark and Matt and Russ and all the things we went through with Aaron, like I think that was the one thing that was on my mind was we have to do what is right for the organization and try to do what's right for the player as well. And again, I think the one thing that I never really lost sight of was the fact that I think we were all aligned in what we wanted to do, which was get back here and win a championship in Green Bay. We had some hurdles we had to get through to get there, but I was always confident in that. And at the end of the day, I think that's all you can really do is you look at your organization, look at your team, and try to do what's very best for them. And then, sometimes you're going to be right. Sometimes you're going to be wrong. But at the same time, I think you can never lose sight of that.
That's interesting that you bring up the human element side of this, right? Because so many times that gets lost, right? You're the general manager of the Green Bay Packers. You're a title, you're a position. Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. In a lot of cases, he's a title, he's a position. And when these conversations happen, the human element seems to sometimes get lost when opinions start flying all over the place. I will never forget, there was a day last April, Brian, you and I haven't even talked about this. Your son, my son, hang out at school. My son comes home and goes, Dad, they might have to move. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen, bud. But yeah, and people don't think that stuff through. So what's it like sitting in that chair as a human being, as a dad, as a husband, as a community member? That's tough sled.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a unique perspective just because I grew up in it. My father was a college football coach who we moved a few times when I was growing up, and you kind of lived on Saturdays, right? They meant everything. Wins and losses meant something. You were always well aware as a kid that, if you weren't winning, that could happen. And quite frankly, when you get into the NFL, you don't think, hey, you're going to be someplace for 20 some years, right? You don't really, that's not the way it works. So, we've been blessed to be here for as long as we've been here, but that's not normal in the National Football League. At the same time, when you have really good players and really good quarterbacks, you tend to stick around a little bit longer than if you don't. So obviously that's really, really important. But I think it's it's a little tougher on the families probably than us that are working actually in the profession, just because we're so aware of that from week to week and how this league is, and you see it every year, and how things happen. So it's just kind of part of it. And I think you can't you got to kind of block out the irrelevant noise for the most part, because it's all around us now, right? And I think if you allow that stuff to kind of bleed into your thought process, then it's never a positive.
I feel like that's a shot that just came over my ESPN bow, but that's okay. I can handle it. Listen, the best thing that happens though is that you finally get to have training camp, and there's things, other things to talk about, right? I get that all the time. I tell coaches the first thing: take your kids off the street. Make sure every kid or player you have is not doing something stupid the day after the All-Star game, because nothing's happening. So if you jaywalk, it's going to make TV.
Correct.
And so, leading up until somebody actually gets on the field, or any of the franchises, and we have something else to talk about, even if it's how many passes you complete in 7-on-7 drill, there's all kinds of space there that needs to be filled. So, and by the time you get to play, everybody's like, wait, there. Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. I don't even remember what we were talking about. I'm not sure you're ever going to get that far away from it, but it certainly, it does help. You're in a spot too, where you have only so many jobs that you can have, right? Mm-hmm. If you go down to whatever Fort Howard is now these days, it shows that I haven't been around a long time. But if things are good, we can have jobs, right? We can grow. You don't get to do that. You have X number of jobs that you can have only. And that makes life really difficult when it comes through. If I went into your top drawer, do you have a list of guys ready that are play, or do you have your board over there because, you're one wrong cut from needing another tackle, another running back? How do I keep track of, how do I stay right on the edge of what I need to know and have that ready for those coveted spots on my roster? Yeah,
so we obviously – we have a huge personnel department here. There's some guys that are kind of more strictly college on the road and working the college draft. And then we have a staff here that is here every day that's working on the rest of the league. And we have, some get teams call it a ready list. We call it an emergency list. And we keep that board. We meet on it every day. In fact, that's my 9:00 meeting this morning is we'll meet on the emergency board. And as players get released, players that are already on the street, as we go through these cuts over the next week, that's how we kind of build our emergency board. And we're always kind of looking to see how we can strengthen the back end of our roster. That goes on 365 days a year. And it, gets a lot more attention during the draft and free agency and things like that. But this is something that Ron Wolf, Ted Thompson have passed down here. It's nonstop. We signed 2 players this morning. So it's something that we very much believe in. You have to kind of churn the bottom of that roster. And that's how you find guys like Bobby Tonyan and Shandon Sullivan and guys that become impact players for you. If you're not willing to do that, you're not going to find those guys.
That's our cue that we only got a few minutes left with Brian Gutekunst, by the way, just a heads up, because he is not going to be late to that meeting on our behalf. That's for damn sure. Hey, usually we do a little bit of a lightning round at the end of these conversations. I might make John proud right now. Check this out, John. Hey, Brian, what's the best 80s band ever? Go.
Ooh, that's pretty tough. There's so many of them because I am probably more well-versed in 80s music than football. Wow. This is a little bit of just a personal thing, but Def Leppard.
Def Leppard. Have you seen them?
3 times, yes. Don't tell my mom. A couple of times I wasn't supposed to be there.
You mentioned a few years back that you grabbed a couple Leinenkugels out of your fridge before you went in after the draft. What's in the fridge now?
We're sponsored by Miller Lite, so definitely Miller Lite, a lot of that. And I do like a spotted cow now and again. So
we're trying to be sponsored by either of them. So hopefully that helps. John, anything else to add?
I want to know what's the most prized possession in your office sitting there. If there's a fire, what are you running out with?
Ooh, if there's a fire, what am I running out with? Probably either my lacrosse helmet, my picture of the Hanson brothers, or the pictures of my kids. So those 3 things.
Well, in that case, give me the best line from Slapshot.
Oh, I can't say those words on this. Can I say those words on here?
Yeah, you can. We'll believe them out if we have to.
No, I don't. We don't want to put you. Can you describe the situation, and I'll tell you.
Well, my favorite scene is when the general manager is making them do the fashion show.
Yeah,
and I definitely can't say those words on TV. But that's my favorite scene for sure.
Well, I tell you what, we'll add the scream though.
Okay.
In the end, we'll add the scream. So, do you ever then in the national anthem? Do you ever turn to the ref and tell him you're trying to listen to the effing song?
I think about it on occasion, but I don't actually do that. No.
He's a great guy that played for the St. Louis Blues and for the Winnipeg Jets and the Coyotes. Keith Tkachuk, they called him Walt Tkachuk. Walt could do every single line. I mean, he was great. He might as well have been Reg Murphy when he came through. He was great.
Yeah.
So. All right, well, we'll probably have to let you go find players. Otherwise, this could just go on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, right.
Listen, it's compelling stuff. It's a job that's unique. It is a job that I don't think anybody fully understands what it is. I always say people don't want the best team to win. They want their team to win.
Right.
And it's that way with players too. They don't always want the best player at the position. They want the player they like the best.
Yeah.
There. So, and you don't know what it is. If it's a third team long snapper or any of those guys, it's a tough gig. And we appreciate the job you've done there. And thanks for coming on. And I appreciate it. And don't think for a minute that I'm not going to hold this over Trevor's head for the next God knows how long. This will be fantastic.
Yeah. So, well, I appreciate you guys having me. I'll say this one day I'm gonna have to get a real job, but while I got this one, I'm gonna enjoy it. That's for sure.
No way.
Amen. All right, Brian. Cheers, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Helpful critiques, ideas, great stories, people we should know, the great bar in your town, the fish fry you want to know, the fish boil, anything that you want to reach out to us with. We are happy. We are here. You can be the inputters. We're here to listen.
Shut up and sit down.
Back in Inside Wisconsin after our visit with the Packers GM. And I guess there's always now the debrief of what we heard or what you saw. And I don't know, maybe there's value in to go, hey, did you want to punch Aaron Rodgers in the face? I just don't know that you get an answer to that question that is anything that's worth it. And by the way, I don't know that anybody cares because that's more of a personal assessment right now, right? People either want to praise Aaron for being here. They either want to, gritch at him because he put them through stuff during the summer and whatever. But listen, those are hard jobs and no one is ever going to like everything that you do in that unless you win the Super Bowl, in which case you get about a 4-day reprieve. And then they're going to go, oh, wait, let's go into the draft. Who are you going to take now?
It's what have you done for me lately or yesterday, like you just said. And he mentioned that. It's unheard of in the National Football League to be someplace for over 20 years like he has been. We're lucky to have him, man. That was a great interview. He's clearly good at his job. I mean, 2 NFC championships back to back. He's got a Super Bowl ring in his time with the Packers. It'll be fun to watch. Yeah, and listen, they've found people in there that could play that's a credit to his job and his staff and his roots as a scout to find. And then like everything, right? You miss people. I hate to pound on one of our own, but when they drafted Jamon Moore, when they had that run, they drafted him and MVS and St. Brown, all in that same draft, right? They went like 4, 5, 6. And my buddies are like back home, oh, they drafted the Missouri guy. What do you think of Jamon Moore? And I said, I think he is unbelievably talented. The only problem they have is he can't catch. And they're like, what do you, and I'm like, and I'm often baffled, right? Because I'm like, you got all these scouts, you got all the things. All you had to do is call me and I'll go, listen, he looks great, but I'm telling you, he's going to drop passes. And he'll drop enough passes that he's going to annoy his quarterback, whether it is Aaron Rodgers, whomever else is in that job, it's going to be a problem. And lo and behold, what happened? Like he was Jamon Moore. And then they're like, well, did Missouri not try? Like, yeah, no, they had him for 4 years. They tried to make him catch better. That was on their list. They didn't just go, hey, this is great. We can live with this because he's big. But there's limited people. So he started and he got a lot of chances and he'd make unbelievable catches. And then the 2-yard out gone through. So I'm always amazed at some of that stuff that they've got these people, right? They've got R&D like you wouldn't believe. And they've got all this stuff. And I'm like, all you had to do is call me. You got my number. And I'll tell you. Clearly he has your address too. Nice jersey. Anyway, hey, out of curiosity, we should have asked him this. I bet you know. If a baseball player is having a bang up season at 300, what about a general manager in the National Football League? How many does he have to get right versus just batting 300?
Yeah, you have to bat really well, I think, on first round picks.
Sure.
But it's amazing that I think how you find any more rounds 5, 6, and 7, which is where you really flesh out the team. And that's where you got to find guys that, either are really good that are surprised, or can that guy grow while I put him on kickoffs and field goal team and punt returns for 2 years until he looks the part now, but can actually play the part. And with only, those 50 dudes, 50 plus, and the Hex squad, like you can't miss on many. Otherwise you're the Jaguars, or whomever. And the Packers he mentioned some of the guys that he had with Tanya. Well, there's a whole list of those guys through the years, and it's not just the back end guys in the draft. It's how do you come in and make the Smith brothers are decent signings, right? Because quite frankly, if the Packers sign a free agent anymore, especially of one of note that makes any kind of money at all, that's an unusual situation. So you're like, okay, can't miss on those guys. There aren't a lot of spots to miss.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this before with the Jordan Love pick. Like, if this somehow becomes rainbow and unicorns and seashells, and Aaron Rodgers says, nope, I want to be here, I'm going to play out the string, and the Packers go, we can do that till he's 40 and 41, and you end up having to trade off Love, and you go, wow, and you get a third-round pick for him. You're like, was that a horrible pick? I don't know. Guy maybe never sees the field, and you get back a third instead of a first. Or the longer it goes, maybe it's a fifth instead of a first. But if you've inspired your guy, or if somehow that has motivated, that somehow that has been a touchstone and an instigator to drive them to this kind of success, well, then was the pick wasted or not?
I was going to say, is Aaron Rodgers the MVP last year if they don't pick Jordan Love?
Yeah, I don't know. And I think Aaron probably would say, no, that was not it. That was me. I was dedicated, and here it is. But, that's intrinsic. I think everybody from the outside would make the opinion that, I think somehow that perhaps that was a bit of a push. But, it's it's a unique position. I'm with you. I think what do you bat in terms of 300 or whatever it is you go look at what's the record. And you said you've gone to the NFC Championship game a couple of times, and so I would think that batting average is pretty high.
Yeah,
in what he's got, But you also don't get to figure that out, right, until it's 2 or 3 years down the road, right? Where are you right now on Gary? Right, like he looks like he's set to explode. Yeah, and if that's the case, year 3, right? He's in his 3rd year.
Yeah,
then that's a bang up pick.
Right. Reminds you of Clay Matthews a little bit.
Well, that guy came in and stormed from the beginning. Don't you think?
Was he smashed right in the beginning, or was it a year or two
good.
in?
Yeah, he was pretty good right from the top. But you can't often tell. That's the hard part. We had guys on the other night, Brian Greasy and Louis Riddick, in the wake of the Jaguars Saints game, and I said about Trevor Lawrence, I said, here's a guy who's clearly talented. He's shown that, but he's on a really horrible team right now that can't protect him. And he's playing against the Saints, who are much better than the other. Like, how do I know that guy's getting better? How can I tell? Because I looked at his number and you're like, okay, you were 7 of 11 or what. I think in this case, he threw 20 some passes and he completed 13. Like, how do I know that guy's getting better? And I think that's the problem with Jordan Love or any quarterback in this situation. You're like, okay, you see, and they see him every day in the practice field, so they know, but you're like, how do I know he's getting better? And he goes in and he plays the other night, his first game, and you looked at all the guys they held out, and you're like, all right, so he's not playing with the ones, many of them. How do you know that guy's getting better? Clearly they might know, because they saw that with Aaron Rodgers, right? They saw him every day in practice. He got to play that one extended time against the Cowboys after, if you recall, early on in his career. But like, how do you know that guy's going to be the guy? But it's the case. But my dad, by the way, was mad at Ted Thompson for years. And every time Aaron would throw a touchdown pass or go to a Pro Bowl or win the Super Bowl, you're like, Dad, are you okay? And that was finally what he said. He finally just said, if they had just told us Aaron Rodgers was going to be this good, I wouldn't have had to be mad. Which is how a lot of people felt about Favre, right? If they had just told us Aaron Rodgers was going to be this good, then it's okay. So that's my hope someday down the road, that people will go, if they had just told us Jordan Love was going to be this good, we wouldn't have had to sweat about the Aaron Rodgers thing. I wouldn't have had to talk to you. I wouldn't have to keep talking you off the ledge about this is how the franchise has to operate.
It was a rough summer. Yeah.
And you're right. And you would be better, right? And the kids wouldn't go hide when Dad's coming down because, oh, look, there's number 10 on the TV again.
Shut up and sit down.
We are back inside Wisconsin. Trevor Thomas, John Anderson. How was Tokyo for a month?
Yeah, no kidding, right? It was long and it was exhausting. Listen, that was a lifelong kind of professional goal. Forget professional, just a goal of any kid for me to sort of be at the Olympics, specifically the track and field part. I don't want to bore you too far back, but when 1976, when I was 11 and the Olympics were in Montreal, I watched every bit of it all the time. And that's when I'm like, I love track and field, whether it was at the time Bruce Jenner, whether it was Harvey Glance, Edwin Moses, Dwight Stones was my guy. I went down to the basement, built standards so I could learn to high jump. Who knew I eventually would, A, high jump well enough to go to college, and B, high jump well enough and get in this business to work with Dwight Stones. But all those guys, so ever since then, like the Olympics were on my radar. In 80, we didn't go because of the boycott. 84, I had teammates in college that ran at the Olympics in LA. So it was really a neat deal. It was exhausting. My goodness. The track I worked, literally, I am not be at 19-hour days.
What was it that you were doing, and how did this all come about? Because I love that this is like a career and or life goal of yours that came true.
Yeah. So I literally was like, I got to do the opening ceremonies, right? That's big. It was me and a broadcaster from South Africa and a lovely woman from Great Britain. This is on for the Olympic Broadcast Services, which is the international feed of the Olympics that all these broadcast partners can take. Everybody buys into the kitty, pays their money in, and now you can take whatever you want. And they kind of do it a la carte. Did the opening ceremonies, then went and did 5 days of 3x3 basketball, had 1 day off, then went and did the track for the next 10, and then did closing ceremonies.
Wow.
As it turns out, much of it was available live stream on Peacock, which I got news from my man Kenny Mayne. So that was news to me because I had told my bosses it's not in the States, not available. And when I told Kenny, I'm like, dude, you're going to get me in trouble. Naturally, Kenny, he's like, great, we'll put you on even more.
Oh, nice. Thanks,
and Kenny. So he did, which God bless him. But so I came back worried that, oh my God, like now I'm going to have to answer. But they were pretty good. I haven't heard anything from them yet. Knock wood. John Gruden, knock wood if you're with me. So far, I haven't heard anything. And so I think it was okay. But yeah, so I'm not sure if I was fully running it, but in my case, I felt really lucky in that to do the opening and closing ceremonies is remarkable. And to do track and field, which kind of along with gymnastics and swimming is sort of screams what the Olympics are always about.
Yeah.
It was great. And then the Olympic track was just, the performances. I don't even know what would have happened if the stadium had been full because they were so good. World records, great races, great performances. I can't imagine how much better it would have been because just the athletes themselves generated such energy and such great performances over those 9-10 days that it was really remarkable.
Pretty fun to watch. And I just love watching it with our kids. I mean, just to get them to sit down and watch this together and see the thrill of victory. And in Rye's case, setting a world record and finishing second. Like what?
Well, yeah, help breaking the record. Yeah, that's a good buddy of mine that I've gotten to know over the years, Rye Benjamin. You know, he's in this race that is one of the most remarkable races, top to bottom, right? There's 8 lanes. And 7 of them, all but one guy, either set a national record or PR. Only one guy that didn't get that. Everybody else set a personal best, and I think I want to say there were 5 national records in the race. So it was remarkable. Yeah, this poor guy runs 46-1 essentially.
Yeah,
and gets beat by this guy Karsten Warholm, who I don't know. You know, God bless the Norwegian Vikings, but he was remarkable. It's going to be a great race, and it was fantastic. And the guy broke 46 is phenomenal. But there were all kinds of those. Sidney McLaughlin was amazing in setting a world record in that same event on the women's side. And listen, Wisconsin people showed really well across the whole Olympic spectrum, right? I had a few that came through in front of my eyes. In the 3x3 basketball, the Italian team, which literally was carried into the Olympics and through the games by a gal named Raylin D'Elia or Diali. You get sort of strange pronunciations, but she's from Wisconsin, played, I think still has the record for most games played for women's basketball for the Badgers. So she was great, just 5'5" spark plug. And then on the track, whether it was Wisconsin people or people that had run at UW, just, thick on the ground. And Kenny Bednarik from Rice Lake, who was second in the 200, fantastic. He's got a silver medal. And then the story of Molly Seidel, who also ran at, she was down in Arrowhead and then ran at Notre Dame and won the bronze in her third try at the marathon distance, is remarkable, right? She's run 3. In her third one, she won the bronze medal. It was great. It was hot. It was unbelievable. It was rewarding. And the good news is, I feel like I guess I did well enough. They've invited me to Paris, but I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to that yet because I'm still worn out from the last one.
Pretty crazy.
So, and can I tell you the strangest part that happened?
Please.
So I get back because of COVID protocols. You can only eat at the time in your hotel, or there's a 7-Eleven after hours. I'm like, I'm not going to go eat sushi from 7-Eleven. I'm not going to eat sushi anyway, but not from a 7-Eleven at 1:30 in the morning. So I call
good
Uber
over there, but
Eats.
just saying.
So I call Uber Eats.
All
I'm
right.
not usually an Uber Eats guy where I'm at. That's, we have a cafeteria at the ESPN, so I don't usually do it. So I dial up the Uber Eats, and I think, okay, I'm going to go meet this guy. I'll be out there a little quicker because there's going to be a language barrier, and I want to make sure I get the right guy. So I walk out about 5 minutes early. It's 1:30 in the morning. I walk out in front of the hotel, and how long do you think it took before some very nice lady offered to come up to my room and for 3,000 yen, give me a massage?
Well,
yeah, took like 30 seconds. And I thought, well, do I look like some kind of creep? And then I thought, no, you look like a dude who walked outside a hotel at 1:30 in the morning and just stood in front of the hotel. So I informed her that I was actually in the market for just a guy bringing me a Big Mac, which was actually a Big Mac. Nothing else, right? And but yeah, so that was about as adventuresome as it got, other than the actual competition itself.
Oh man. Well, glad you made it back in one piece. How about that?
Yeah.
Jeepers.
So,
so hey, a couple of the episodes that you missed while you were gone.
Yep.
One of them obviously was with Sam Decker and Olivia Harlan Decker. Thanks for the assist on helping get that set up. Olivia was amazing. But the other one was 2 TV Wisconsin meteorologists. It's ironic now that you come back while a hurricane literally just hit your house. What the hell is going on out there?
Yeah, I don't know. They said it was the first one we had in 30 years. Fortunately, fortunately in 2 things. One, it was not as bad. Let's start with that. It was not as awful as predicted as it came through here. So we were lucky, and it hit sort of a little east of here in Rhode Island, and worked its way inland. And quite frankly, we got soaked with rain. There was certainly some winds reported, but it could have been much worse. And most of the raining damage actually got over farther west into New York and even into Pennsylvania. But it was remarkable. It just goes to show how crazy the weather is here. Here's what I love about Wisconsin. The seasons sort of always come in order. They're pretty predictable. I get we've had some climate change and things are odd every once in a while. But it's like Jim Murray says, the late, great writer for the LA Times. In places like Wisconsin, the summer will always be hot and the winter will always be cold. Like those things follow. But here you can't ever figure it out. And then the other thing is we have a really reasonable reaction to snow. Actually, here they react to snow or overreact. In Wisconsin, they just respond to snow. And I can remember telling my great friend Bill Pito at ESPN one time, and it was supposed to snow like 12 inches. And so he takes the company hotel room that they set aside because he can't dare drive home in this. And so I drive home, and he's like, so now what are you going to do when you get home? And I said, well, I'm going to, I'll shovel the snow. So that's what you do in Wisconsin when it gets really snowy. I go, yeah, we just shovel it, and then we go about the day. What else are you going to do? Here, It's always crazy. But yeah, I think about Wisconsin. Yeah, it snowed. You know what it is? We just plowed the streets and the kids went to school, or we shoveled the driveway and we all went to work. We don't make such a big production out of it.
Right.
And I really have come to appreciate that people don't go cuckoo over that. So
I'm glad it's all good. He's back. So my question to you, John, is who won?
Who won? I think you were in a position where maybe there were no winners. No, the Packers won because he's back and he's quarterbacking their team, right? So on the surface, they win. He's here. He seemed dug in. It didn't seem like everybody we talked to thought he was coming back. So at least for the short term, I think the Green Bay Packers won. They have their all-pro quarterback back. They have the MVP back quarterbacking. That, to me, on the surface is the win. Now, if we dig down a few layers, depending on what allowances were made, what concessions were granted, it may turn out to be something more than that would tip it in the other scale's favor. I have to think to some degree Aaron Rodgers was satisfied that he didn't get blown out and lose or he wouldn't come back. Right?
Randall Cobb is here.
Yeah. So I think at some point that he had to be satisfied enough that, okay, because he's the one that kind of had to climb down off it. I've been impressed by him being back. I've been impressed by everything he said. I think he has been a little bit more forthright than most people usually are in these situations. I don't think that I've read a lot where people were like, oh, his first press conference, he just took the Packers to task and he flogged them. And I'm like, I don't think he did. I think he very much just said, here's my case for it. Here's why I was disappointed. But I don't think that he totally blew up the organization. I don't see that he lit everybody up. He didn't say anything to me that was terribly revealing beyond what we knew. And I think maybe at least if Aaron's got the thought that at the end of this, now I control what I want to do. Right. So maybe that's the comfort level that he gets out of this is that, okay, I still get to go back and get to play the sport, get to play in a place I love, get to play for gobs of money, got a chance to win a Super Bowl because I got a pretty good team. But at the end of it, now I get to control what the next step is. Then maybe that's his victory in this.
I got nervous when Aaron didn't show up for any of the Bucs games. I was like, damn, he is not screwing around, but I'm glad he's back. And I'm glad the Bucs won the NBA championship for the second time in John Anderson's life. Congratulations.
I was there I was good to see that, cause I could still get, I had access to all the information, which is nice. So I was good to see, Bakhtiari eating beers, which is always my favorite part down there. I'm like, I don't know how the knee is, but the gullet looks great. And the ponytail is resplendent, magnificent.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I was surprised. But listen, how good was your couple of weeks if you're Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday?
Yeah.
Let's win the title and then boom, let's fly over here to Tokyo and we'll fight through it and we'll get an Olympic gold medal to boot.
Pretty amazing.
Good for them. But listen, it's amazing the Bucs come through this, right? Because 2 years ago when they win 60 or whatever, and I make the Weisenheimer comment that Budenholzer is German for 60 wins, and they win 60 some odd games. And I don't know if you knew that. That's what Budenholzer's German.
No, I didn't. But
Budenholzer is German for 60 wins. And then and then they louse that up. I don't know, louse that up, but somehow Toronto and Kawhi Leonard comes out and decides to ambush him. And then this year, I thought it was a revelation, but I think that goes to show that A, Budenholzer can coach. Yep. B, knew his team at the core of what Giannis and Middleton were, Lopez, some of those guys. How do I finally get Holiday to work in there? And this doesn't have to be a rush because we see what winning 62 games means. So
right.
Good on them. I don't think second time in my life. Thank you. It finally gets over the disappointment of the 7-game series loss to the Celtics, which is the one I remember more. Right? I don't remember I was 6 or 7, but I can just when they lost 2 years later, and 7th game to the Celtics, I can still see myself watching that 7th game. I was at an aunt's house in Iowa. It's very vivid watching them lose. And it was, painful. Just like it was painful to watch them lose in game 7 of the Sixers when the refs completely had it out for us and screwed us so that Allen Iverson and Larry Brown could go to the finals. That was a bunch of crap.
Remember that?
George Karl's team, but,
Hey, Milwaukee's on fire. Not literally, but wow. Bucks championship and then The Brewers are taking over the world. Giannis buys into the Brewers. We've lost a game 7 or 2 in the last few years in that Brewers uniform. As of this recording, the Brewers are almost 30 games above 500. I took a moment to myself the other day going, this is absurd. Usually, you remember, during the 90s, there was a time when the Brewers were already out of it by the time the preseason started. We're on to something special here. What's going on?
Yeah, they're really good. They're like, they used to be sort of like, the acronym for Cubs, right?
No, tell me, please.
Completely useless by September.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
and that just changed my life. I'm writing.
First off, Craig Counsell is a warlock. The things that guy does, right? Like, what are you doing? And they've changed from when they sort of rose to prominence and they with the Fielder and the Ryan Braun and that group where they kind of slugged people to death. Offensively, they're just I don't know how they do it. Offensively, they're not great, but they get enough from enough guys, whether it's Adames or the timely, like Jackie Bradley Jr. is hitting 177, but the one hit he gets every 3 days somehow is meaningful.
I was just thinking about
or he scores.
Does he not make center field look insanely easy? I've never seen somebody play a position. Maybe you have over the years, and you've seen a lot more sports than I have. But the way he tracks balls down and even fakes out cameramen, right? Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, he's as smooth out there. He doesn't remind me physically. He doesn't look the same, but Devon White, who played there for the Angels and who played there for the Jays, I believe, and played for the early Diamondbacks. Devon White was the most effortless center fielder I've ever seen. Lo Cain is great in center field. Obviously, he can go get a bunch of balls, and he's certainly go. But there are times he looks like he's making efforts, right? And then the second he catches that, he turns from this 30-year-old remarkable athlete into a 65-year-old man. He limps. He looks like he needs a wheelchair. He just, he'll run to first like a bullet. And then you see him stand over there and it's like, he needs a walker. He's the most amazing guy between what his full effort is and then in between where he's just shuffling around. But so they've taken this team that is so offensively challenged. They managed to get all the key hits and their starting pitching now is magnificent when before you're like, okay, I don't know that they have the starting pitching. Can we get it to the bullpen? Because the back end will be fine between Hader and Knebel and all these guys. And now this year it's the opposite. The starters are just lights out. You're like, we're going to get through 5 or 6 innings, and we're not going to allow a run or 2. If it's more than that, you're just stunned. And then the back end every once in a while now there's, Devin Williams was what he was last year, which was remarkable in that short 60-game season. He was absurd, only allowed a run or 2. So that now worries me a little bit. Do we have enough guys on the back end? Hader anymore just scares the death out of me. I don't know why. Maybe that's just me. He's got a little Rob Nen in him. You probably don't remember Rob Nen. Great closer for the Marlins and then for the Diamondback from the Giants. But he was he'd get all 3 outs, but there'd be a walk. And then there'd be a fielder's choice and the guys at second, and then he'd steal third, and then there'd be a fly ball, and and he'd get out of it, but it was never 1, 2, 3. There was always a little CPR in it. Hader's starting to remind me of that. There's always a little CPR finish with him. And his stuff's ridiculous. I'm like, why don't you just throw it down the middle, see if anybody can hit it?
Yeah, but when they catch up to him, that ball goes a really long ways.
Yeah, there are guys that have turned it around on him more than once. And I think he's a little bit better this year. So I worry a little bit about the bullpen and the back end. But the starting pitching is unbelievable. We get Peralta back right now, right? He's got a little shoulder problem because he had to swing the bat. But I think that starting pitching gives them a chance all the time. And because of that starting pitching, they don't need to go score 6 and 7 runs. I think they have an unbelievable confidence in each other and in Counsell that he'll put them in the right spots, and somehow they keep eking out wins, or they're literally one of these teams that's just never out of it, man. They use every single one of those 27 outs. they're in really great shape. But I think that is, a tribute to Counsell on the top step, man, because that guy just, and we had Yelich on SportsCenter one day, and I sort of proposed that same thing to him. I'm like, what is it? How is it Counsell pulls this off? And he's like, I don't know, but I told him I got 7 years left on my deal, which means he's got 7 more years left to manage this ball club.
Wow.
And so I think it just shows you sort of the respect he has of all the guys in that room, and then he's got a championship pedigree, man. He's scored winning runs in World Series.
Every time the Brewers put out something on social media, some sort of hype video, or some sort of like, hey, we're here to stay, or you can't count us out, or this ball and glove logo is for you, I damn near get choked up. I mean, that's how amazing this stuff is for me and the Brewers, because I remember, I have a photo of it. My wife took a photo. 2008, when they made it to the playoffs, was the first time in my lifetime that they were in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't start the team until 1970. If you had to choose, John, I know my answer, but another Super Bowl, another NBA championship, or a Brewers World Series, what do you choose?
Listen, I'm all in on the World Series. That's where I would have gone before the Bucks won the championship, before the Packers beat the Steelers. As much as it was great to live and grow up that close to Lambeau Field, I've always been more of a baseball kid. I love baseball. I copied down, the agate of the Brewers players out of the Sunday paper when the Press Gazette would come, just so I could keep track and see what they did week to week. My dad used to always take me to Brewers games on my birthday. It's one of my fondest memories. We'd go down on a Friday, we'd see a night game, and then we'd stay and see a Saturday day game back when they did that. And so I have always been 100% in on the Brewers over everybody. That would be my favorite Wisconsin team, with the exception of maybe the Badger hockey team when they were in their prime. But so I grew up, I grew up and loved those guys. So I would dearly love to see that. I had my heart broken in '82. They lose the World Series, right? And then where do I end up going to school? Right next year, I go in fall to Missouri, and just a dorm full of Cardinal fans, right? It was my roommate was from the Southeast Missouri. He was down the Boot Hill. And so he used to love to listen to Cardinals. And I actually developed kind of an affinity for him, listening to Jack Buck in the dorm room every night when we did that. You're like, wow, he's really good.
Right.
And they had some great teams under Whitey Herzog, which was fun. And then, when I first started in professionally in the journalism school, and I was working at the NBC station there, I was there at some of their games when they won a division crown. I still had that press pass, champagne soaked somewhere from sneaking by Doggy Lynch, the clubhouse attendant, even though I didn't have the right pass to get in the locker room. But this is where old reporters help the younger guys. He's like, just give him a few times. Awesome. He'll drink 3 beers. You'll walk right by him. And lo and behold, that's what happened. I went and throw Doggy to down a few of the Anheuser-Busch products, and in I went.
That's awesome.
So I would love to have the Brewers win the World Series. That would be, I would buy all the merchandise, right? Like
all of it.
Right when it comes out, right after, and they're like, be the first. I'm like, who buys that? That would be me. Helpful critiques, ideas, great stories, people we should know, the great bar in your town, the fish fry you want to know, the fish boil, anything that you want to reach out to us with. We are happy. We are here. You can be the inputters. We're here to listen.
Shut up and sit down.
We covered a lot of ground today, J.A. There's a lot cooking.
Yeah.
The Packers GM, clearly the highlight of the show, but lots of stories, lots of wins, lots of potential, and lots of you following us here on Inside Wisconsin. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow us on the social channels. If John, do you think you're going to get a social channel in your 60s? I mean, I know it's a few years away, but
if you really want to know how close we are, I am about 8 steps from an actual record player with albums and vinyl over here.
Got it.
Literally that far. So with the original copy of Born to Run. So I don't know what that says exactly, but I think it gives you a clue.
All right. Noted. Hey, I'm glad you have an iPhone. That was a big step for you. When I met you still had a flip phone.
I'm not completely in the background. I'm all for technology. Like, I got heat in the house. I have central air. I drive a car. It doesn't have a crank on it. I'm just not wild about social media. There's a difference.
And you're on national TV every day. I don't blame you.
I'm not Fred Flintstone sitting over here, all right, with a Brontosaurus burger. Give me a break.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, share this, please, on the social platforms that you, the listeners and viewers, are on. We are so grateful for your support. Check out a T-shirt or two if you get a chance. It's a walking billboard that spreads joy. That's what we're all about, having the people, the stories, and the patriotism of America's Dairyland shared with all of us. For John Anderson, my name is Trevor Thomas. Stay tuned. We have some incredible things coming, like maybe a Brewers World Series victory. We'll see if this ages well. Until next time, as you were, Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, the University of Wisconsin-Platteville, and Mill Home Supper Club.
Shut up and sit down.